Welcome to Ask a Celebrant, a conversational podcast answering your questions relating to all the commemoration and celebrations of all the chapters of your life. I'm Berni B, full life celebrant.
And I'm Dinah Liversidge. Hello everybody, I'm Dinah and this is Berni.
Hi everyone, hi.
We're really excited that you have joined us for the first episode of Ask a Celebrant.
A celebrant. I know, I'm so excited. Honestly, I cannot tell you how driven I felt since we decided that we were going to do this and set up the plan, and how many people have spoken to me or connected with me, and I know you too, saying I'm really glad you're doing this, can't wait to hear it, you know, we've got so many questions. And so it's really excited, and spending time with you. That's my favorite thing, is that we get to hang out.
Exactly, and call it work.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, how many people do actually, when you first say to people, whether you're networking or whether you're just chatting with somebody you've met, and they say, so what do you do? And when we tell them I'm a celebrant, I often find people kind of go completely blank looking.
Yeah.
And there's this pause where you know they're thinking, okay, so is it just me who hasn't got a clue what that is?
Yeah. And some people don't even ask. They just go, oh, that's good. So yeah. So what made you be that? But I think what they do is they're hoping, like when you can't remember someone's name, you're hoping that if you carry on the conversation, there's some clue will pop up, and then they won't have to, what they think, make themselves look stupid, which of course is not to ask what it is. Why would anyone know if it hasn't been relevant in their life? And to be honest, you know, I mean, we're celebrants, so we hang out with celebrants and we spend lots of time with people who are looking for celebrants. So we forget that it's a fairly new industry and that its context is still evolving, and people don't know what we do or what we can. And we all kind of do different aspects of the role of officiating life celebrations, which is basically what we do as a holistic thing. But it's, you know, it's more than that, and it's so varied. So I think we need to clarify that for people.
I think you're right. And you know, I love the whole philosophy in life that the only stupid question is the unanswered one. So I love it when people say to me, what's that? What do you do?
Yeah.
And as soon as I explain it to people, I also love how many people I meet say, oh, that sounds like a fabulous job.
Yeah.
Either they say, I'd love to do that, or if they're people who know me or have worked with me historically, they say, oh, I can totally see why you chose to do that. And
I get that all the time. I really get it. Once I get past that bit where I told you this, most makes you laugh, which makes me laugh as well. When several times I've said to people I'm a celebrant, and there's been that pause where you're thinking they're working out what a celebrant is. What does that actually mean? And they say, when did you decide to be celibate? Makes me laugh every time. I don't know much about celibacy. I know far more about celebrancy.
Which that's what we're going to talk about today, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's use that subject. Let's use that subject.
The other thing I'd love us to clarify for people a bit too is that there's a lot more than one type of celebrant.
Absolutely.
I have a lovely friend in Germany, Chris, who I think you've also met.
Yeah, I know her, Chris Menzel, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. And Chris asked me in a lovely Christmas card, you know, I've looked up Celebrant because I'm really interested in what you and Berni are talking about. Yeah. And I'm not sure there's an equivalent profession in Germany. Could you find out for me? Could you tell me if there is? And this kind of highlights that the role of a celebrant is different in different countries.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, and different countries within the UK even. The
absolutely.
Role is different.
Yeah, totally, because in Scotland, the role of a wedding celebrant is to carry out a marriage, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Whereas we create wedding ceremonies or celebrations.
Yeah.
It's not a legal marriage.
No. So at the moment, until the white paper and the law, the wedding law reform bill is reviewed in Wales and England, if you can get married with a celebrant, you can have the most wonderful celebration that is absolutely bespoke and fitting to you and your personalities. But the boring legal signing the form has to be done with an officiant at County Hall, whereas
or of course in a religious setting.
Or in a religious setting, which is difficult for a lot of people who might not want to, who are not religious or who are in a multi-faith relationship. So, you know,
more and more is certainly the kind of people we work with, isn't it?
No, I mean, if you are of one faith and your partner is another, sometimes the faith will prohibit the wedding in their particular church or religious building. So
yes,
it's,
absolutely. And I'm really pleased to see there's been a delay with the reporting back and the decision from the commission who are looking at this, because they are really, really looking now in detail at the role of independent celebrants and how important we all feel that is in making their decision about who going forward will be allowed to conduct a legal wedding. Now,
absolutely, I think that's thanks to the power of the trade association, the Association of Independent Celebrants, and the other bodies that support us as independent celebrants, making our voice heard, because I really genuinely don't think they deliberately avoided independent celebrants. No, they just did not in their, you know, have the knowledge that humanists, which are non-religious, no religion celebrants, and independents, which are all options, collective options, mixed options celebrants, that we even existed and that there was a difference. So I think, you know, there is a need, you know, if you don't know what a celebrant is, and we still haven't told you, so you may still not know what a celebrant is, don't feel ignorant about it, because the industry doesn't properly know what a celebrant is and does and can do and should be able to do. So
so maybe we should tell people then what is a celebrant.
Yes, do you want to start that process? Go on, because
sure. If you look at various different sources, the wording of course is very slightly different,
of course,
but an independent celebrant is a person who will have received training. And that's something that's really important to point out here, is celebrants are some of the highest trained people in the industry. They will have received training, very often over a very long period of time, and they'll have had to do practice ceremonies and prove that they are competent in many ways. And having done that training, they can carry out a ceremony or a celebration, hence the word celebrate, celebrant, of somebody's life. So perhaps they've died and you're doing a life celebration. Somebody's love, so perhaps a hand fasting, some form of unity ceremony, a wedding blessing or ceremony. And of course, those can be absolutely unique. And there are some exquisitely beautiful ceremonies crafted by celebrants. Naming ceremonies, and these, I'm really pleased, you and I have spoken about this a lot, Bernie. We're really thrilled with the way that's going, because a lot of the time you say naming ceremony and people think of a baby and birth. This can be so much more than that. This is a time when we're looking at things like naming ceremonies to celebrate two families now sharing a family name.
Absolutely.
A person going through gender reassignment and getting that really exquisitely beautiful first document that comes, the official document with their new name. It's emotional when I hear of these things, and to celebrate that with a ceremony. And there are so many reasons why you might celebrate the change or you know, taking on of a new name. And again, a celebrant is a person who can do that.
Absolutely. I think it takes a celebration, a party, and it makes it one step more official and special. You get the opportunity to focus on not just the general joy, but on the story that got you to that point. And I think with, I mean, you've got the mainstream weddings and funerals and all of those things, but even within that, as celebrants, we make each and every celebration and commemoration unique and different. It can be anywhere, it can be as long or as short as you want, it can include absolutely anything when you are involved in a celebrant. And what we are, certainly I, and I know you too, what most celebrants want, and the reason we're here, is so that we can articulate and express the personalities of those people we are celebrating, and those connected to those people who we are celebrating in something, in a moment. It's like a chapter start, chapter end, full stop. It's a breather in that life story where you recognize the significance of that moment, and we get to create that, or help create that and articulate that for individuals and families. And it's just the most amazing life choice vocation.
It's humbling, isn't it? I think I know you and I both have this enormous affinity with end of life, with helping people to market and express it in a way that feels authentic. I have often said to people, I wrote a blog about this, we all, and you, I know, are doing a really clever new thing on planning for your own funeral and how you want that to look. I think often we forget that the people who are really going to need support at that time often have had no say in what you think you want for the end of your life.
Absolutely.
And to include your loved ones, and to be able to say to loved ones, if you do what they wanted and we look after you and we add what you need, we're not disrespecting their wishes. We're absolutely stepping in and looking after you, because they're not here to do that.
I mean, my whole focus when I think when I trained as a celebrant, and because I did your course to train as a celebrant, and Dinah is an amazing teacher and mentor. So if you ever want to find out more, have a chat with Dinah, because she articulates things absolutely beautifully. I mean, bigging you up there, but it's true. It's true. I feel exactly like that. But when I came to you, I said, what I really want to do is focus, not exclusively, but predominantly on end of life and funerals and memorials and supporting families who are saying goodbye, and helping them, because death isn't the end, it's the beginning of another chapter where you're having to navigate your life without that person present anymore. And so that the farewell and that community that you bring together for that farewell and for that, to share that grief, is really important step in the process of overcoming and managing that grief into the future, because you have got to navigate life without that person. And I have found, I find it really touching, is when you're invited into a family to help them write their farewell, and they start sharing the most intimate stories of how they met and how the person impacted their life, and they tell you their story, you become another person with that person in your memory, and you begin sharing that person's stories, and that person's life affects your view into the future as well. So you take on something of every single family that you've had the honor of respecting in death as well. And I just think that is just wonderful. It's wonderful that their legacy extends that, and that you really get to understand and know that family, and hopefully help them a little.
Absolutely, massively help them. There's a beautiful expression where you talk about how it takes a village to raise a child. I also think it takes a village to lay a child to rest.
Absolutely.
No matter what age we die, we are all somebody's child.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the loss that has, the ripple effect, the lives that every one of us has touched.
Yeah.
It's such a privilege, isn't it, to work with a family and say, so how do we honor that? How do we authentically say, you made a difference in our lives?
Yeah. And every single person does make a difference. Everyone is unique, and everyone is just exactly how they should be.
Yeah.
And if they have had impact on one other person, and they definitely will have, then that is of value. And if you know, and it's really good to get into that conversation with families and help them. But I you know, I mean, you touched on it before, I'm also doing the pre-death, focusing on that now, because what I have found as I've become a funeral celebrant and a celebrant is that people may have or may not have left a will and instructions. So there is, at the end of life, there may be some clear instructions on what the person was hoping for, or there may be none. And in either way, that can bring up problems, because how a person wants to be remembered may not be how the people left behind remember them. So it might not assist. And as you said, you know, combining what matters for the people left behind with what was important to the person who has passed is really important. And I'm trying to encourage death planning, and I've got a package that's in its infancy called DIY Before You Die, where I'm going to be sitting with families and individuals, and then perhaps with their families, and discussing what they want and the impact of what they want on the people left behind, and how they will feel about what they have chosen. So that there's, and also sharing all the options, because there is so many options out there that people are completely unaware of. We have got this structure for funerals and death that has become habit, but it's not actually what you have to do. Is just what is the norm, has become the norm relatively recently,
only since the Victorian times.
It's it used to be very normal for your loved one to be in their home after death. Absolutely. And for you to be able to have time with them and visit with them and sit with them. I think it was probably the introduction of central heating that made that harder to happen, probably. Yes, but it is still possible, and it is still relevant to people to be able to do that. And I think there was a horrific statistic that about 97% of people don't die in their home. They die in hospitals. It's a really high. I may have got that statistic wrong, but it's incredibly high, because we are used to, we're in a society where it is easier for those outside of the family to manage it if they whip you off to a hospital or a hospice or a care home, and that is rather than have the infrastructure of helping to care in the home. Yet the norm should be, if that's what people want, to be able to facilitate that type of thing. So I'm going to be talking.
I think part of the reason we've moved away from that is the fear that is generated in just talking about death. And I know we're planning to have at least one episode, if not two, where we talk about this much more openly.
I think we Brits don't talk about these things. I'm sure in other countries the culture is very different surrounding death, and death is not such an abstract and unspoken thing. We're a bit like, a bit like sex. We don't talk about sex, we don't talk about death.
Absolutely.
But we all know that just because you start talking about sex doesn't mean you get more of it. talking about dying doesn't make you die. No. Sadly, on the first instance,
don't we? We need those conversations to be happening so that people don't feel so lost. I really feel for families when I first meet them and we sit down and they start by saying, do you know, we never had a conversation about this. We just don't know what mum wanted, or I don't know what my partner wanted, or we knew we wanted to talk about this, but we never got round to it. So I hope you and I might give people some ideas on ways to talk about it. You know,
Absolutely.
one of the things I did with my hubby of, well, gosh, we've been together, crumbs, I can't, somehow it's
forever, since you were grown-ups.
I know, since we were children, clearly.
Since you were children, indeed.
I don't know how we've been together that long, because I'm only 38. But, but I actually said to him, we're going out on a date night because we need to talk about death, darling.
Yes.
And he said,
you wrote a blog about that called Let's Talk About Death, Darling.
But we did. And actually it was wonderful, because we had those conversations that say, I value you so much.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for you.
Yeah.
And I want to do this right. And by the way, when I have to do this, there needs to be lots to support me, because it's going to be awful.
Yeah.
And to have had those conversations, which of course were a bit difficult, but also were very funny and full of joy, and what we've achieved together was so calming too. Yeah. And I would love people to realize, it's like, you know, the thing that you're always thinking, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. I used to talk about snogging the frog. If somebody gave
I remember that from a lot of conversations we have. Yeah, do the
if
thing.
I gave you
that first
morning and said kiss it, you'd go, ooh. Yeah. But if I said it's going to get bigger and bigger until you do, you'd kiss it really quickly. But we do this with conversations about death.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. And by putting it off, this thing becomes bigger and bigger until we really feel we don't know how to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And although both of us do lots of work as celebrants in other areas, and you know, I've been rabbiting onto you a lot because I was excited I got my new hand fasting cords today.
Yes, absolutely.
I do think that the reason both of us became celebrants was connected, wasn't it, to losing a member of the family, realizing our family didn't really know what the options were. You know, for me, literally 2 days before his funeral, my mum-in-law asked me to do my father-in-law's service because she said, and it was absolutely true, she said he'd hate it if it was all religious. That would feel really hypocritical to him. But as soon as I did the service, almost within minutes, I thought, oh my goodness, I think I'm meant to do this.
Yeah.
And it's that understanding of, I love that you and I both have spent time on stages talking to people. And it very much feels like you're in the spotlight.
Yeah.
When I first said to somebody, oh, you know, I'm training, I'm going to become a celebrant, she said, oh, well, of course, your speaking will really help, won't it? You're used to being in the spotlight. And I had to kind of explain, no, this is different. Here, we stand next to the spotlight.
Yeah.
We make sure the spotlight is either on a couple,
or
an individual, or a community, or an event.
Yeah.
And what we're there to do is to make sure that you see in that spotlight the person you love.
Yeah, that's a beautiful description, Dinah. It's absolutely true. It's, you know, it's
we're not there to be the one that everybody goes home and says, wow, wasn't she great? No.
Yeah.
I want to do the job of making sure you go away and said, do you know, that's exactly what he would have wanted, or she was like, or I feel like I've had a day with that person.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that we're standing beside them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think the work you and I have done over the years has absolutely prepared us to do this.
I think in order to speak, you have to not only, it's not just when you're listening, it's, you know, we have to have compassion, empathy, organization skills, all of these skills, but we have to listen, but we also have to hear the things that haven't been said. So we spend a lot of time really getting to know families and all the bits in between that haven't been said, but you can pull out. It's such an honor and a joy to be able to articulate those things for people. And when you write them and they say, oh my God, you've really understood that person. it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. But you're absolutely right, it's not about us, it's about them. And I always say
sorry, carry on.
No, I always say to couples and individuals, we always have, and I know you do, you have an initial 20 minutes, half an hour chat with them. And I always say, now you've met me, go away while I'm not with you and decide if I am the person you feel can represent you, because we are going to get to know one another really well. Yeah. And if you don't feel connected to me, then there are so many other celebrants that I can recommend you. And that's the beauty of Independent Celebrants and the networks we've created. I mean, in Wales, we have our little network of independent celebrants. So we always have other people with other skills and other personalities there'll always be somebody for you. And we do get to know you, unlike registrars and those types of people, who come and deliver a service. We will have dug deep into your story, because that's what it's about for us.
And actually, I think you've touched on something a lot of people may also not know about Celebrants, which is we can become a celebrant to a family right the way through the life of that family. I a few years ago did a really gorgeous outdoor wedding ceremony for a couple who had been married in Australia, and they wanted to do a ceremony in front of family and friends, and we did it in the most gorgeous rose garden. Oh, it was stunning. They had fabulous safari tents and yurts in the garden afterwards. It was gorgeous. And first of all, after the ceremony, Mum and Dad of the bride came up to me and said how much they'd enjoyed it, and that it was their silver wedding in a couple of years, and could we do a vow renewal? And it was wonderful, because we did, and I loved it, and I felt like this was a family I already knew, and it was very intimate and very special. And then very tragically and quite suddenly, grandma of the groom passed away. And of course, they had the comfort of going to a person, me, who we knew had met her, had in fact had a fabulous day with her at the wedding, and so had this beautiful, joyful memory of her that allowed me to help them more than if I'd been a stranger. And so I think the role of a celebrant is going to be that, as people begin to see what we can do to support them.
Like a local minister used to be to a family in small communities. They would know you, or your doctor would know you as a family, and they would see you through all of your births and deaths and all the things in between. But we do that. We almost become a family friend and part of the family, don't we? And it's a real joy and honor. But that's why it's so important that people have the opportunity to pick the celebrant that's right for them, because we are going to get up close and personal, because that's the only way we can properly represent you, is if we know your story. And I guess we're all inherently quite nosy. We like how did you meet? Oh my god, we want to know all the stories and all of them.
Don't we hear some gorgeous stories?
We hear the best. Hear the best.
I mean, I think back to some of the couples that met during the Second World War, and I met the most remarkable couple who had been married for 64 years.
Wow.
And she got up out of the kitchen. She said, hold on a minute, left the room, came back, and she said, these are the letters he wrote me during the war.
Oh my goodness.
Letters from her amazing hubby who'd been in the RAF. And these letters were tied with beautiful ribbon. And she said to me, they're a bit tatty. I go to them a lot.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Peek into somebody's life like that, and to understand the significance of those letters that were written so long ago. And still meant something to her. Oh, it was beautiful. And moments like that make this job remarkable, don't they?
Oh my goodness, it's just it's a privilege to be in the role that we're in. And I think that you will find, I think if you look at any celebrant, there's lots of places you can go and search for celebrant for the type of ceremony you want. But when you go, what you will find is that we all see our role as such a privilege, and we all get very excited and feel very honored and quite emotional about being given the opportunity to represent the person, the couple, the family,
absolutely,
the situation that we're invited into.
It's kind of one of those, you know, that beautiful saying, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Feels,
isn't it?
It's very hard for me to distinguish when I'm working and when I'm not working. I mean, I'm very lucky because I've got the Celebrant and the artist and the guest house, and it's all about being creative and connecting with people and hearing snippets of their life as an accommodation provider. You as well, because you get to have a snippet into some people's lives. They come and they tell you all about what brought them to you and a bit about their story, and you get to share your environment with them, and it's just everything is such a joy. We're very lucky people.
Yeah, we really are. We really are. So listen, we've chatted for a bit today, and it was our first episode.
Yes.
I know we'd love to get people to actually ask us questions, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point. We're here. We want what we want, I think, from this podcast. I'm sure it's the same for both of us. We've spoke at length, is to answer your questions. So if you are an individual or a couple or a family or a celebrant or in a different country and you have a question that will start a topic of conversation for us, then we plan to do this every month. So do ask us questions. Also, we'd be interested in what you think of our format, how you would like us to represent you. I mean, we will take constructive criticism, be kind. We don't mind criticism as long as it's it's constructive. So, tell us what you think about this podcast and all the associated things that we're going to be putting out alongside, which will be videos and editorial and blogs and feedback, because we're doing this for you as well as to get together and have some time together. We're doing it for you.
Totally. Berni, as always, it's been a complete joy.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing this. I love that we had this idea. Of course, it involved cake and I think hot chocolate.
Yes, there was a lot of hot chocolate with cream and marshmallows and sprinkles and things.
Penegassi tea rooms in Llandudno make about the best hot chocolate I've ever had. Good job.
Maybe next month we'll do it in person. We'll have to meet one.
That's it. Well, thank you, my lovely, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
And do, as we've said, do make contact. You'll see all our contact details below. And we look forward to hearing from you all.
Absolutely.
Ask a Celebrant is unscripted, and we base it on the questions we receive from our clients and you, our listeners. We'd love to hear from you. Do join the conversation.
See you next month.